Yes, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Thank you very much for watching this, and if you've got, as you come through this, if you've got any comments, leave your comments down below there, yeah? I'd be very pleased, and I do answer them, as you know. I do my best to answer all the comments that I receive. Yeah. And don't forget, there's a link down there to my book on Amazon. HMP Manchester Prison Officer. Highly recommend that. Well, I would, wouldn't I, seeing as I wrote it. Now I'm going to talk today about Ashworth Hospital, which is in a place called Maghull near Liverpool. And there's been a serious incident at the hospital where an inmate, I believe his name's O'Brien, has been attacking people, and he's took a metal bar to one of the other prisoners. The other prisoner was a former soldier turned mercenary who had actually shot and killed two of his colleagues in a drunken argument in Iraq. Anyway, he's found himself in Ashworth, and he was working out in the gym, I believe, when this particular inmate came up behind him with an iron bar and belted him around the head. I find, that if you get belted with an iron bar, it can have quite serious effect. Anyway, the guys who did it, he's already serving 2 times lifetimes too. He's had a number of violent incidences in his past, been charged with rape in the past and stabbing people, making homemade weapons out of, the favourite one with the toothbrush with the razor blade melted into it at the top, sliced the thing, and then, attacking people with that. Nearly killed one guy, put about a 6-inch slice right down his neck. Stabbed somebody else in the face. Then he made a weapon out of, I think it was 3 or 4 sharpened pencils that he taped together, and he intended to use this to take people's eyes out. I mean, he's obviously a maniac, yeah. But then again, he's in Ashworth Hospital. I worked at Ashworth Hospital for a short period of time when I was doing my nursing qualification for the Home Office. And whilst I was there, a guy came up to me, and it was one of the inmates, it wasn't one of the staff. We started talking all utter nonsense, and he said to me in English, he said, "I speak 1,000 languages." And then he started, I thought, yeah, you might speak 1,000 languages, but only you can understand them. Nobody else. That was in Ashworth Hospital. About 10 years later, I was working for social services in Lancashire, and I was in their main office in just outside Preston. And who should walk in to see his social worker but this guy that spoke 1,000 languages? I thought, I ain't going to address that. I'm out of here, I don't need to know somebody who speaks 1,000 languages. Believe me, I'm doing a runner. So like sideways and out the door, yeah. See if he recognised me, you see, possibly. The one guy that did recognise me in Ashworth was Graham Young. Now, I'd only seen Graham Young 2 or 3 times in the scrubs. He'd made me a cup of tea when I first went there. Imagine having Graham Young the poisoner, yeah? Don't take my word for it. Google Graham Young and have a look, yeah? At his Wikipedia page. A highly intelligent man. He could very well have been a chemist, but he decided to kill people instead. He put paraquat and all sorts of stuff into the tea, and his workmates noticed that their hair was falling out, and then a number of them died. It transpired that it was Graham Young that was poisoning them. He ended up getting life imprisonment, and he went from the Scrubs to Ashworth, which is an institution for the criminally insane. So if you've ever wondered what the end of the road is, believe me, it's Broadmoor, Ashworth, places like that. Top security institutions for the criminally insane. If you find yourself in one of them, there isn't a great deal further to drop, believe me. But hopefully, if they're in there, they can treat them, which they do. It's a hospital, and all the staff are medically trained. As I say, I was sent there for training working with psychiatric patients. I did another stint in another psychiatric unit at Prestwich Hospital. I previously mentioned this. Well, the day I went, this guy with a board and a pen and immaculately dressed came up to me. Yes, says, how can we help you? I said, Mr. Sutton here for 2 weeks training with the psychiatric team. Right, he said, come with me. We went all round the hospital showing me this, that and the other. I thought that was very nice of him. Turns out he was one of the patients. He dressed himself up so he looked like a psychiatrist, like one of them, immaculately dressed. They said to me, he does that, he thinks he is one of the staff, he thinks he is, but he isn't. Some strange people around. Yeah. Anyway, Ashworth, there's been an incident of a serious attack on one of the other inmates there. Belted over the head with an iron bar. Don't think it's life-threatening, but it certainly has injured the man. It's a strange place, Ashworth. They all have individual rooms. It's quite. If you've got to be in a prison, it's single cell and it's clean. The staff keep it very. They're on top of it. It isn't a filthy, dirty hole. The dirtiest prison I went in was Liverpool, Walton Jail. The inmates were throwing the food on the floor, people walking in it on the landings, rats running round. It was a diabolical hole, that. You wouldn't want to be in Liverpool. Yeah, seriously, it was not a nice place to be at all. Also, I want to mention, of course, about the Metropolitan Police. It just gets worse and worse, doesn't it? Yeah, apparently there's been 16 officers charged and convicted of criminal offences in the last 18 months. That's quite a lot. The ratio is quite high there. And also they reckon that the Metropolitan Police has got 800 officers who are currently under investigation for sexual offences. And they've just dismissed a detective sergeant for, what do they call it, misogyny, homophobic behaviour, intimidation, and what else did he do? He was sending out pictures of murder victims with little joke captions underneath it. Don't forget to do your duty. Pictures of girls that have been murdered. It's no wonder he has been dismissed, but he was a detective sergeant. He was also accused of drinking beer on duty. Well, imagine that. A CID officer in charge of drinking beer on duty. when my dad was in the 1960s, that's what they did. They went round the pubs, standing at the bar in the pubs with a half a bitter, yeah? You could tell them a mile off. The CID officers, dressed in Marks and Spencer's suits, yeah, with a half a bitter. There was no inhibitions then about drinking on duty. And of course, I've previously mentioned it here that all the police stations had a bar, usually at the back of the police station, yeah, where the staff used to, the officers used to go in and get a drink before going on duty and stuff like that. So it was rife. That was the culture then. Time's passed. It doesn't pertain anymore. That the world's moved on from that, and all the clubs at the prisons have shut down, I believe. Which is sad, really. I used to, I mean, boozing in there, but you used to be able to go and get a packet of crisps and meat pie or something like that, and a Britvic orange, and read a book or something like that. It was alright. Anyway, that's today's little rant. I hope you've enjoyed that. Yeah. And I'm going to bang the song dinger now. I am going to perform. I'm not certain that this is musical, but you've been warned now. Dave, do you like this, Dave? Dave sends me messages on here. Dave and Laura and Larry and all that lot. Thanks for your messages. I read them all, you know. Song dinger. There we go. That's the end of that. And now we have a song. This is a song by the Dubliners, or certainly it's performed by the Dubliners that I know of it. And it's a strange thing about the Dubliners. I'm reading at the moment James Joyce's Ulysses. I don't know if any of you have read that. I tried to read it about 50 years ago, and I just couldn't make head and tail of it 50 years ago. But I'm reading it now, and it is absolutely magical. I can get the idea now. I know what he was on about, yeah? On about Dublin and a day in the life of Leopold Bloom. Anyway, this isn't a day in the life, this is a song. This is called The Rising of the Moon, and it was originally performed by the Dubliners. Now it's going to be Destroyed by Me. So are you sitting comfortably? Right. The goats are on the moors, Larry. You go and get 'em while I entertain the troops with The Rising of the Moon. And come tell me, Sean O'Farrell, tell me why you hurry so. Oh, hush now and listen, and his cheeks were all aglow. I've taken orders from the captain, get you ready quick and soon, for the pikes must be together at the rising of the moon. At the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, for the pikes must be together at the rising of the moon. And come tell me, Sean O'Farrell, where the gathering is to be. At the old spot by the river, quite well known to you and me. One more word for signal tokens, whistle out the marching tune, with your pike upon your shoulder at the rising of the moon. At the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, with your pike upon your shoulder at the rising of the moon. Out from many a mud wall cabin, eyes were watching through the night. Many a manly heart was beating for the blessed warning light. Murmurs rang along the valley to the banshee's lonely croon, and 1,000 pikes were flashing by the rising of the moon. By the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon, and 1,000 pikes were flashing by the rising of the moon. All along that singing river, that black mass of men was seen. High above their shining weapons flew their own beloved green. Death to every foe and traitor, whistle out the marching tune, and hurrah, me boys, for freedom, 'tis the rising of the moon. 'Tis the rising of the moon, 'tis the rising of the moon, and hurrah, me boys, for freedom, 'tis the rising of the moon. Yeah, the rising of the moon. I reckon it might not come out for a week or two now, if it's heard that. Seriously, I hope you enjoyed that. Give me a few comments here. And a few likes as well if you do. Bye now.